Please, Jimmy.
Yeah.
Look who's there.
Hey.
Hey.
Lumberjack. You go. You do it.
All set. All right, the meeting is called to order. Parks and Commons Commission special meeting on March 20th. And for the record, please state your name.
Adam Altston.
Dan Wright.
Meg Simons.
Dan Sterling.
Ron Simons.
George Giroux. John Pringle.
All right. Well, welcome, audience members. And do we have anyone online, Jimmy? Yes.
No.
No, okay. All right. So yes, we're, I guess any public comment before we dive into the new business? No, okay. So today's meeting is a one agenda item meeting to continue our discussion on our commission and our roles and responsibilities. So everybody's got the packet with all the documents, the matrix. So we're going to be focusing on this today. Yeah, okay.
I thought.
So we're going to focus on the matrix and we're going to go through just one by one so that we're honoring everything that we've all put into this process so far. The goal for today will be like the concept of live with it ability. So you don't have to totally love it, but you have to live with it. That's the goal overall with all of these items. So we're gonna, as I go through, we'll just ask for a thumbs up if you can live with the item as it's stated. Now, if as we go through, you're not clear on what's the wording means, because that's really important in any document, but this one in particular as it's defining us. So if you're not clear on what is meant, then let's have that discussion so you can know what you're agreeing to. Making sure we're clear. Is that clear?
Can I have one thing?
Yeah, yeah.
The concise.
This wording isn't.
No, nope. John.
So we're just gonna discuss this and take it to level, like, put it into a document later, what we accept.
In a sense, I mean, we'll do a second run through if we could do that today. If we get through everything and there's only a few we don't really agree on, we could take a second run and have more discussion and, I mean, who knows? Well, but we don't want this to drag on month after month, month. We're very clear on that. I think we have agreement on that. So
And-
that,
I'm also going to make sure that we don't get too in the weeds today. That's my job. So that if we get like bogged down on a word, it's not about discussion about the word. What Meg was saying is like, if you need to define, like, let's say everyone's name is there. Let's say Ron had one and it says design MP room upgrades. And then someone says, well, I'm not really sure what we mean by upgrades. Ron gives a brief explanation what it is, what he means by it. And then that's it. And then it's just, then we take the little thumbs up, thumbs down. And later on, we can come back to that and we can change that word, but we're not going to change each one. We want to run through, get it done, find what we agree on, and then we kind of sift through what we don't agree on or what we don't know we agree on until we find what we really can live with and what we can't live with. And the writing would be after that, because we have to kind of, do we agree on the concepts?
yeah.
Okay.
And I guess the other thing I want to add to that is that once we go through everything and look for our agreement, and then we go back through and find out where we disagree and we need more discussion or clarification, even if you decide where you stand on something today, it doesn't mean you can't change your mind on April 1st at the next meeting or there's still plenty of time. So just give yourself that grace to know that we're in a process. We're not finalizing anything today.
Lock and
Yeah. Okay,
let's do it.
well, let's start with PCC Guidelines Comments Matrix, number 1. Rename to Public Spaces Commission, Parks and Rec, change the name because PCC no longer applies.
So let's do a thumbs. If you agree with that fully or enough where, hang on. We'll go through, get to that. This is just the process. We want to just kind of give a thumbs up on, I can live with that as it's written. If you can't, and you have a question, then ask Ron the question
I have a question.
to yourself.
There's three suggestions in one line here. So how are we gonna thumbs up all of them in one moment? It's like, are we voting on, or are we discussing whether we're gonna rename it? Or are we gonna discussing what we're gonna rename it, if we're gonna rename it?
Would you like to modify it to just maybe the last thing and
No,
then
I
we
think
can?
we should modify it to the first thing, which is, should we rename the commission? How
Okay,
about we
Okay.
leave it as a simple
Okay.
question?
So another question,
Yes,
the live with it, it's like, what if you don't really like the idea? But you could live with it? I mean, I feel like that would, to me, would be a thumbs down. It's like, I don't really like it. I mean, if I'm outvoted, that's fine, but what do we do then? Thumbs down or thumbs up? Because I could live with it.
then that would be a thumbs up.
Yeah.
In this process.
Okay.
Knowing that you could refine it later is what I.
Okay, so I just have a question. Why do you think the name alarm room?
Yeah, because we are not managing the commons. So to call us the Commons Commission, when there's a staff person and other people who are responsible for the commons, to me means that we're not really the Parks and Commons Commission. Or that it's possibly that it's broader than that, limited Parks and Commons, or what about the other public spaces that nobody's responsible for? Maybe that's part of our. So that was my logic in putting that out there.
Question over
Okay.
here from me, if I could.
Mhm.
I would basically either I could vote yes to renaming the commission,
Mhm.
but I could not vote yes to what we name it because I don't think we have a clearly mapped out idea of what we do.
Yep.
I certainly don't. So
Okay.
I feel like we need to work through that as far as who we are, what we do, then we get a name.
so
Mhm.
the process would be that you would vote no on this because you cannot live with renaming it to Public Spaces Commission. Now, here's.
I
the
would
thing.
know, okay,
Because later on, like, well, either later today or next time, we're gonna go back to all the ones that we did not get consensus on. And we're gonna figure out, well, what would we need to get the consensus on that or a majority on it? So you can feel free to just vote your feeling on it.
I would make a motion that we vote on whether we rename it or not based on what we decide what we do. Because I'll vote yes for renaming it, but I won't yet vote yes for any name because it doesn't, if we don't know what we do, how can we
Yeah.
describe what we do?
And that's what we're gonna discuss on the second round. That was exactly what you said. But the first round is just super quick, up or down, because we want to kind of nail all the ones, the low hanging fruit that we can say, yep, those are good. And we're gonna get almost all of them, most of them are gonna be, majority, I think, is gonna be low hanging fruit.
So,
Then we come back.
John,
go ahead, John. Yeah.
Could there also be a third option, just to table it instead of up or down, just like?
Nope, you gotta,
No.
you gotta vote up or
I
down.
think if you vote it down, that's essentially tabling
Yeah.
it because we're
Okay.
still gonna come back.
There we
That's
go.
right, yeah.
All right.
But yeah,
good.
I mean, if you guys heard what I said, why don't we just restructure my initial comment to rename the commission?
love it.
Take
Thank you.
everything else out and it's just, do we want to rename?
Okay,
Okay.
since it's yours, you get to do that.
Are you guys okay with that?
It's
Now let's
yours.
go for thumbs up
You've
or
done it.
thumbs down.
Okay,
Okay, now, rename the PCC, thumbs up or thumbs down? Okay, we got two, I think we have a majority,
5 to
right?
2.
5 and
Yeah,
2.
okay,
Okay,
so we're gonna put a yes on that.
okay. The next one is advise Trails team on what is needed in the parks. Reinstate the parks ambassadors concept that we talked about later last year.
So two things.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Or two things.
Yeah, they are.
Just
Thank you.
Clarifying the
Oh.
first one, ultimately, but yeah.
So advise Trails team on what is needed in the parks. Thumbs up or down?
Question on it.
Okay.
Sorry.
Ask
We
Ron,
don't
it's his item.
get Too much in the weeds, but I almost feel like that's not necessary. They seem to know what's needed almost every time. I mean, I occasionally will say, hey, there's a loose board on the boardwalk or
I'm
something.
gonna call timeout, because we're not doing that part yet.
Yeah,
We're really, I know it feels weird, but it will work. Because everything will have an opportunity for discussion. Even the thing that we just voted yes on, we can still further discuss.
I know.
So
Yeah.
don't-
I'm gonna miss the next meeting in April. So
Right.
Okay,
And we will not finalize anything next month,
yeah, we're still
purely
gonna be,
because of that. So, yeah,
Yeah.
right.
okay.
Okay.
Okay, are you making this two or one?
To me, that it's essentially the same. The park ambassador is just a person who's gonna make sure that we're giving the information to trade. So.
Okay.
Yeah, look at it either way.
That's how we would advise.
But the basic question is, are we monitoring the parks and advising the trails people of what needs to be done?
Okay, and then I'll just, if I may, if you can't live with reinstate parks ambassadors, because that's what's written and Ron hasn't taken it out.
Take it off.
Okay, take it off.
Keep it simple.
Ron, you own it. It's
Reinstate
now
parks
done.
is taken off.
Okay,
Okay.
so here we go. Up
So-
or down? Advise trail teams on what is needed in parks. Okay, that's a yes.
7 to zip. Okay. Number 3 is design multi-purpose room upgrades.
So I would, as the initiator of this, I would withdraw this one because it's all gonna come out in the master plan.
Okay.
And so
Okay.
there's no reason for us to decide
Great.
that.
Withdrawn. Excellent.
Next one is input on kitchen, pavilion, northeast entrance, and master plan.
Same.
Any questions?
Well, wait a minute. Yeah, I did have one. I thought our role was input.
Yeah,
I thought our very primary role was input.
So do you have questions on this one? This is not saying we're never, it's just saying what we envision ourselves doing.
Okay,
So,
If I can clarify, it
Yeah,
seems to
please.
me that what we're doing is we're doing this as if we didn't have a defined role. Every one of these is setting up something that will be part of our
Yes.
stated role when the project is finished.
okay.
George.
I would like to suggest that some of these things all fall into the category of when it comes to things like multipurpose room upgrades, kitchen, pavilion, northeast entrance, and master plan, that's a whole category that we need to discuss what our involvement is. And I know the city manager also has input on that.
Mhm.
So it's a category that includes all these specifics. And the category is, what's the role for improvements in parks and commons?
okay, well, hang on
Yeah,
to that
yeah.
thought because we will need that. It's an excellent thought. We will need that as we further get and develop what we're doing. But right now, it's just kind of an up or down and then we're gonna build on all of it.
Absolutely.
So right now, it's just, and it's not limited to what's put in here, but it just like, do you agree with these 1, 2, 3 things, 4 things that we put input on? Yes or no?
Okay.
Okay, that passes. That was a 7-0.
All right. Next one is that we do not have a role on the following: setting fees, soliciting events, scheduling events.
that's 3. I had a,
Break them down?
yeah, because
Okay.
I do like, I
Okay.
do agree on 2 of them, but not the third.
Okay,
Okay.
then vote it down and you'll have an opportunity. What you might do on some of these, since you're not gonna be here unless you can be here on video, maybe write some stuff down and we will represent you
Yeah.
with that, or we'll read it as we get to each one. Would that be okay?
That's a great idea. We've done that. George was out of
Yeah.
town and we did that and that.
Which one do you not agree with?
Um,
Do you agree with?
I think we should be involved in the discussion on setting fees. Not necessarily, well, we wouldn't make the final decision. That's still gonna be city council, but we should have input on that.
Okay,
But scheduling and soliciting, I think we should have no involvement.
okay, so
Did that vote again?
we've got that, we've got a vote on that one. So no on setting fees, soliciting events, scheduling events.
No one.
All three again?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
the concept.
Yeah, so you can't, and
Let's think broad categories.
so what's the
Okay.
score?
5-2.
Help me out. 5-2?
5-2.
And that was a yes? It was a yes, okay.
Okay, next one is liaison for the community, receive public input.
John?
John?
All
We don't want to leave anyone out. This is a team here. Okay. Next one, liaison is one of our jobs as commissioners.
Oh,
Kind of the same
put it
thing.
down to that.
Yeah, right. Good point.
Yeah.
Liaison with you.
It doesn't specify, so.
I was just, when I said that last meeting, I was reaffirming what Ron was saying that, yeah, I mean,
Okay.
as far as I know, all the commissioners on all the commissions, that's part of their job is to talk to the public about their commission.
Okay, given that it means the same thing as above, Are we
Either way.
7-0 again?
Back on that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Dan, were you,
Liaison?
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
okay, and I wrote even down, means the same thing as above, so if we ever come to that, we know we're good.
All right, next one, present PCC.
Present.
Present,
Yeah.
present, see, there's the
English, I know.
wording, it all, you know.
Yeah.
Present PCC workload is high, doesn't see as realistic an expansion beyond overall our current responsibilities, such as estuary boardwalk, Peterson parcel, Greater Commons Master Plan, landmark property in northeast entrance, and possibly more.
My question to Adam is, was it just those things that I guess my question was, so earlier we had talked about not doing like setting fees, soliciting events, scheduling events. Were you thinking about that in this, or were you strictly thinking about those areas of?
No, this was in the context of we were looking to expand our role.
Oh, one of them was the
Yeah.
library and to log cabin. Was that part of it? Because
Not specifically, but maybe generally speaking, I was thinking very generally that thinking of our commission as it was, or has been, the parks and the commons, keeps us pretty busy. And we have these other new parks that are coming on, and the expansion of the commons or whatever's gonna happen with the Greater Commons Master Plan was enough of a workload that I didn't see it necessary to expand our role beyond that. That's what I was saying. It's not, I wasn't really, I mean, I guess we can thumbs up or thumbs down it, but it wasn't really
go ahead, Dan, you asked next.
It's hard to vote on something that doesn't specifically limit what we're limiting. You know, so it's kind of like we're gonna hold our load at this, et cetera, okay? I would basically agree with that in theory and just work with it.
Mhm.
Because we definitely need to define what we do and where we do it. That's one big area of concern I've keep stumbling across here. And I talk to different people and it doesn't clear up.
Mhm. Okay,
And I guess, was there someone else? I kind of have a similar question in a sense based on that, was like, would you be able to expand upon, like, you don't see it realistic as expansion beyond the current responsibilities? So like, what expansion? That's what I'm kind of trying to understand.
well, basically this list. And there's a lot of good ideas in this whole list. But if we're looking to expand, we rarely finish a meeting in 2 hours. And if we're looking to add on more responsibilities, we're gonna be looking at having 2 meetings a month every month.
So what responsibilities do you mean though? Like what? Like other areas of
Other-
town or?
An example.
I'd have to look through this list and
We can come back and give you a chance to come back.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
Okay.
so I'll come back
Yeah,
to that
let's
one.
come back to that.
But can we, are folks okay if we vote on that one after we get a little more information?
It's impossible to vote. There's a long list of stuff.
There
So,
is.
Can I,
It's not even a firm statement.
Yeah, can I interject?
It doesn't seem realistic.
Can we possibly table that for now and come back with this is what we do vote on it list, as opposed to, we do some things, but we're not sure what else we want to do? Because it's too vague as worded.
well, it seems to me that that's the process that we're in. This is step one, that would be step two. So, it's still okay. I mean, the intent of this is to not take on everything that may be suggested as part of our role, but to have some kind of limitation. And if we look at it as that, then we can decide, do we want to have any kind of limit? We can decide what the limits are.
Can we rephrase this as that we're going to work through this list? Or something like that, because that's what we have to do.
Yeah.
Just in the concept of moving
I'll
forward.
tell you what, let me withdraw this, if that's okay with everyone.
Yeah, yeah,
Because whatever we come up with on this list is gonna be our
yeah.
roles.
Okay, so that one's withdrawn. Thank you very
Okay.
much, Adam.
You're comfortable with that, Adam?
Sure.
Yeah.
We
Okay.
need a vote to see whether it should do.
No.
He owns it, so. he
Welcome
wants
to the
withdraw.
team,
It's
John.
withdrawn. Yep.
Okay. All right, next one, create a tree ordinance in order to preserve beauty in the neighborhoods.
Can I ask a question of an audience member? Mr. Mayor? And maybe you already noticed, and if you do, Adam, I apologize. I'll ask you first. Do we not have a tree ordinance? And then anyone can answer.
To the best of my knowledge, we don't have one.
Okay. Anything?
It's extremely limited. Let's put it that way. It's
trees on public property, you can't cut down trees on.
Okay, but that's all we have.
Private property, there's no restriction on anything. So are we voting on a private property?
We're not voting yet.
Yeah.
We're still in
Still
question.
in clarification of the
Dan?
item.
I would say yes if it read, in common areas, because we can't come up with something for private property.
Why can't we?
We could.
We can do it for noxious weeds. Why can't we do it for trees?
I'm not even
If we
sure
so
we're doing
choose.
it. Are we doing it for noxious?
We hope to.
Parks and Commons is doing, we need to rename ourselves.
Take a look at what Eugene has.
Yeah.
We already.
So does Portland, yeah.
There's a
Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of,
week article about it recently.
if we do this, it's gonna be a multi-month process
Yeah,
to
just-
fine tune it and figure out what we wanna do.
My question is it a tree ordinance that would incorporate privately owned property?
I don't know,
That's
that would be
not-
part of that discussion if we vote yes on this.
What? We would discuss it
If we
later.
say yes, we want,
It's not specific. It's just a tree ordinance, and if the commission, so,
if we decide we want to pursue a tree ordinance, we'll have discussions about, does it include private property or not? What are the restrictions?
got it.
Okay.
A lengthy discussion.
And can I ask, what would a tree ordinance, let's say for public or city-owned property, what would that entail?
Craig said we already have that. He just said we have one for public property, but we don't have as anything for private property.
Is that,
I think it's actually limited.
okay,
Honestly, Dan, I don't know, why does that matter? If we want to write an ordinance about trees in our community, we'll define what that means later.
because,
I want to hear from Mayor Birdie what he was,
I think Ron has a good point, but think about, Public Works cut down 23 spruce trees on the south edge of the well,
Mhm.
without any kind of
I remember that.
citizen request. There was no public hearing, there was no complaint.
Just to clarify on that, I don't think she requested all the trees be removed. It got a little exaggerated. She was surprised at the response. This is, we don't need to go into.
we're gonna,
details.
let's just keep it in. So the reason, to answer your question, why I care whether, if we already have one, because if we already have a public one, then, when I say public, I mean city-owned.
I'd have to double check, because I remember seeing something very vague and soft.
Okay, because I'd be very happy to engage in that, but if it's a private one for private, I'm not for private tree ordinance that would
But we
say.
don't have to decide that.
Dan?
This is
Yeah.
step one.
Right, but if we already had something in place, then why would we even do it? If we already have a public
Because
one?
maybe we want to change.
So let's
Maybe
back up.
5 of us
Oh,
want
yeah, it could be,
to do.
Yeah,
public
but that's what I needed to know.
let's
for my-
stay really broad here.
I was gonna say, Dan, based on your own definition, you should give it a thumbs up because you are in favor of part of it, and then the discussion we'll have will define exactly what it is.
Okay,
Right.
and I'm comfortable with that because
Okay.
it sounds like we don't have a variable to find one. Bobby?
But, this is gonna be talked about next month's meeting, but I'll bring it up now. Our city council goals, they plan to review with the Parks and Commons Commission.
Yeah.
Kind of how, you as members could be involved in helping the city staff achieve some of those goals that are lined out. And one of the goal categories is environmental stewardship. And it's environmentally aware in all we do. And goal 4.5 is review ordinances that significantly impact the environment, such as those related to trees and noxious weeds.
Okay, very good. That's helpful.
So just that is in the city council's goals to be considering, and I think that just like the noxious weeds one, it could be a combination and a collaboration between public space and private property, between Parks and Commons Commission and the Planning Commission.
Got it. Okay.
And a work group possibly.
When we're talking about this, are we talking about city limits, right? Again, like.
That's all we can do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I found the ordinance 5.0, 8130, no person, no owner or person in charge of property that abuts a street or public sidewalk. Permit trees or bushes on the property, even if you're a street or something, traffic, then it goes through their standards. I'll keep all bushes and trees and bushes on the premises. including parking strip trims so that overhang, that sort of thing. No owner or person in charge of property shall allow a parcel we are entirely dead or decaying tree to stand. So that's our tree ordinance.
Pretty
Compare
limited.
that to something like Eugene, it says you can't cut trees that are above a certain diameter unless there's a permit.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Yes,
Oh,
Oh,
We're
I
obviously.
think I just heard. I think I just heard somebody say that we were gonna consider this only for public property, or is it? No?
No, we don't know what we're gonna consider yet. If we vote to pursue it, we'll have that discussion.
Okay, any
okay.
other questions? Okay, up or down? Yeah, 7-0? Okay, thanks.
Made thumbs up in the face.
Okay, next one desires clarity on what it is we're supposed to do as a commission.
Well, that's what we're doing, yeah.
anybody not?
Thank you.
I
for
like
that
being vague.
clarity on the lack of clarity in the commission.
Okay.
Very nice.
See what I can do. Let's go down.
Go to 5-member body instead of 7.
George, why?
Yeah, you want to explain that?
Who are you getting rid of? That's what I want to know.
I feel like if the county can run the Parks and Commons.
They're paid. They're doing it as a full-time job.
Yeah, still.
Well,
I
if we
don't
went to
really
5,
think-
maybe we could be paying.
Yeah. Bobby, what's in the budget for us?
Let's work with city council first.
Double the city council.
Dan.
I tend to stay at 7 because one thing I want to bring up and discuss is the possibility of us forming work groups within PCC
Okay.
to take on some of these things. And if we have 7 people, we've got more folks to draw on to say, you 2 guys go work on this and you 2 guys work on that and present it at the next meeting. Because I think we need to do work
So-
groups.
Work groups do not need to be peopled by commission members only. So it's not necessarily a people draw in this
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah.
Well, sorry, if I can
Here's-
interject again.
Here's where we're kind of getting into the weeds. We want to just stay above that for now, for this moment on, do you want 5 instead of 7?
Okay.
And then any clarification on what you read there, not whether 5 is better or 7 is better, just what you read there. John?
Just last question, has it always been 7? Is it?
In the charter that it's.
Yeah.
Okay. We didn't-
Code.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, okay, ordinance, right.
Very good.
Okay,
Which
any other
ordinance is
question?
that?
So we're voting if we want to have this discussion, if we want to move it.
So
I would vote.
No.
we have 5-2.
2 to 5.
Okay.
So no.
No.
Okay, the next one is, I question whether these tasks are right for the PCC members. Promotion role for the Commons and Parks. So, okay, this is familiar. A funding seeking and securing role, a role in the administration of the city-wide invasive weed ordinance, expanding our purview to include the library and Little Log Museum. So again, we've got a lot packed in there. Are these tasks right for a commission? Adam?
Questions for George?
Yeah, I was gonna say there's multiple items here, and rather than do a thumbs up or thumbs down per se on each one, I agree that it's worth discussing, so I would give it a thumbs up, even though some of those I think should be us and some shouldn't, but
I think that's a valid
Okay.
perspective.
Any other clarifying questions for Gio? On the item?
So
Okay,
just to clarify, yeah, we're basically voting whether we think that these ideas are worthy of pursuit further down the road. Is that correct?
I think so. I think this is like, can you live with this? Meaning it doesn't have to, it may or may not make it into a final version.
But it's gonna make it into the next
It-
level
It'll
of
at least be
discussion.
discussed, yeah.
Good.
But either way, it would be discussed, because even if it's,
Yeah.
right? I think.
Why are we doing this?
Why are we? if they're all gonna be in the next level of
No,
discussion.
only the no's. will be
Only the
next level.
no's.
Because we want to see if we can get to consensus, and if we can't, then we really bitch.
Yeah, that's the thing. If we don't agree, then we'll come back. Okay, so thumbs up or down?
Yeah. 5-2.
Okay, so it passed.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, next one is to include in our new ordinance language that encourages the city manager to maintain a work group that works with the city staff to undertake projects beneficial to the greater commons.
George, can you explain that?
Sure. Dan, it would help if you seek out and read the work group ordinance that has been passed for the city.
Policy.
And
Admin policy.
And it is work groups are formed. They report to the city manager. Work groups are a way to get things done in the city, in a city that has very little staff. So the trails is a work group. The invasive weeds, yips, is a work group. The Keep Yachts Beautiful, the sidewalk strip group is a work group. There's a work group for the boardwalk. There's a new one starting for the new property that's they just purchased. So work groups are a way, I'm working on a work group right now to tackle some projects in the commons. So the idea here is not to start a work group under our PCC, but that to include in the ordinance encouraging the city manager to initiate and maintain work groups that serve the commons. And those work groups would report to the city manager, not to this group.
Work groups or just a work group?
Every work.
I mean, no, the way you worded this specific item, it says maintain a work group.
A work
In
group.
this case, it's for one work group to work specifically with city staff about the commons.
Yes.
Okay,
Right.
that just.
Dan.
Okay.
Well, a concern I have, and it might be new guy problems, but it seems like there's no good oversight of work groups as in to let you know what's going on. It might just be that I'm not up to speed. But we have all these various work groups and things happen in them, but they don't seem to necessarily appear before Parks and Commons. One example is you're on the boardwalk work group, and it sounds like the boardwalk is under the umbrella of Parks and Commons.
That's
No?
inaccurate.
Okay, well, that's
It's
why,
under the city manager.
okay,
All the work groups are directly under her, not
Well,
under us.
That's not
but yeah, the thing is,
perfectly true, because in the end, the boardwalk might be considered a park.
or Commons.
But the work group itself is under Bobby, it's not under
Yes.
us.
Yes,
And-
and Ron said that the boardwalk doesn't have anything to do with the PCC.
No, the
If it's
work group,
designated
I
a
said.
park, it will.
Absolutely.
So
Well-
I'm just,
All right, I just got confused because the work group isn't under any review or communication, whatever, with PCC. But once it's done, it's ours.
Only if it gets designated as a park. then it
Dan's gonna
becomes-
clarify that
So
for you.
actually, it actually is now. Very recently, there were, we have assigned to us to PCC, and it's in a report that was in the last agenda, and it will be in the next agenda, and under reports, and you have Keeping Yachts Beautiful, you've got Trails Yips, and you've got the Estuary Boardwalk. So those all they report to us in the sense that they don't have to have someone here if they don't want, but we read their reports that are monthly reports to Bobby. And then we can ask any questions we want or anything like that of Bobby, and then, as necessary. So it just began to be under our purview in the sense of just
Okay.
kind of reviewing it, nothing else. We don't manage it. Is that accurate, Bobby? Okay.
I can speak to it a little bit more too.
yes, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So work groups are something that I've been putting a lot into lately and just trying to bring them into the fold and into the purview and make sure that the reporting is transparent and being publicly reported And, when I first started, there was, there's trails here and there's zips here and there's this group here and, this group does this and, they all do their thing. They all know what they're supposed to do. They ask for money sometimes. And then there was also, right when I started, the admin policy that was put in place under work groups that Gio and Dan and Bob worked on. As you all know, I spent a great deal of time focusing on getting our staff, in the first year, and I feel like we're in a really good place. So I've been putting a lot of energy into saying, okay, what is this work group situation? How do we bring this all into the fold? How do we put process to this? How do we make sure that we're all communicating, everybody knows what's going on, because transparency is a big thing for me. I put everything into reports for people to read what's going on with the city. And so for work groups, they are a work group. They're project-specific work groups. There are some work groups that I have adopted, and there are some work groups that form. As we're going through these city council goals, I see a lot of opportunities for different work groups to form, because quite frankly, this is more work in this computer than our city staff can do. And I believe that is the purpose of work groups. So being able to put them to use. And with that, first step was bringing in these pre-existing work groups and starting to put some process to those. So the work groups in the policy, it is determined that they report to the city manager. So we started a monthly leader meeting similar to our commission chair meeting that we have once a month. The leaders of all the work groups, we come together and we go and do a roundtable of all of what we're working on, what the process is, what the progress is, and what the pinch points are, where the budget is, what their needs are, those are all things that are discussed in that meeting. And so that was phase 2 of putting process in. Now phase 3 of putting process in was getting a report where, they reported to me, but they also are doing work that reflects on the nature of Parks and Commons purview or area of interest. And so we have now a report page for all of the work groups, and that is a Google document. I send it out to them right when we do our monthly leader meetings. They fill it out. It talks about what the project is, what the goals of the project is, what their highlights are, where they're at in their budget, and those get attached. They're due to me, and they get attached now to the Parks and Commons Commission meeting material as a report. That is all of the pre-existing ones we just added onto the report that you will get in your April meeting materials, and that's going to be for the boardwalk work group. And we just have a new one for under stage storage that will also be added to that. All of those work groups are Parks and Commons of interest. So those will all be on one sheet and be given to Parks and Commons to review as part of their meeting materials as a report. Making so that is the public format and forum for those work groups. Now, I just was here in the Public Works and Streets Commission a couple weeks ago and a couple days ago at the Planning Commission meeting, sharing the city council goals that were put in place that relate to those areas of interest, those folks. And we discussed all of the different goals that they could help us with, they could support us with. And there was a couple work groups that popped up. Oh, I like that. That is an area of interest for me and me too. And let's form a work group and let's go research that or come bring that back and start working on that policy together. And that work group reporting will be given to that commission.
Okay.
It will not be included.
Great. That's
Thank you.
helpful. That's very helpful.
Does that help Dan?
Thank you, Bobby.
Yes.
You've done an excellent
Oh,
job.
there's also one more level.
Yes.
All work groups are project specific, and they have to, every single project needs to go through an application process, a guideline process where they let me know what the project is, what the goal and what the outcome and what the expected budget, who the volunteers will be, if there's volunteer waivers that need to be signed, et cetera. So,
Okay.
yes.
Great.
All right.
So-
I'll quickly add that the city council does have concerns about the workload on the city manager. And so we need to be substantive enough to warrant the incremental load that's placed on the city manager.
Yeah.
We don't want work groups for every single thing.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
So question about, we see the report each month of the ones that are pertinent to us. But if they're reporting to you, do we get any input, or we just get to see the report and whether we like it or disagree with something?
That's
That's it? That's all we know? We just see it and that's it?
You can make comments on it, you can ask questions about it, but that's the kind of the sharing of information,
Okay.
what's happening, we're sharing with you what's happening.
Okay.
The way we put it in the agenda is that it's meant to have any questions or comments that you want to have. So that if there was a concern, then you should bring it up after reading the report. I had a question last time about something that I just didn't know about, and then I figured it out.
We have the work group could ignore us if they chose.
Well, it's really Bobby.
Anybody can
She
ignore it.
supervises it.
Yeah.
So she'll hear us. And then she'll, under her judgment, make determinations about whether we're right or we're wrong or whatever.
Yeah,
Again,
everything
we-
comes through as a recommendation, and that can be taken or not, so.
Yeah, we can,
I would just like to add that if estuary boardwalk is something that we're supposed to get reports on, I have never seen one. So if that's going to be coming,
Yes.
that's different than that's something that we've been getting.
Did we just get one last month?
I don't know anything about.
Just
the
last
estuary.
yeah,
time
we
was the
got one
first one.
last
That
month.
was
I
the
wish I
first
had the
one.
page. I don't have the
In March.
page number.
We did get one, but we, that was the first we
That
ever,
was the,
yeah.
as I.
So
don't
in the
have the page.
reports, yeah. Okay,
Okay,
so we
we're
have to
gonna
move on this one,
move
so.
on.
When did we vote on it?
No.
We are now.
One.
So we are,
Include in our new ordinance, language that encourages the city manager to maintain a work group that works with city staff to undertake projects beneficial to the greater commons. So,
Well, what did you vote?
Yes.
Okay.
so 6-1, yes.
That just really quick.
Yeah.
I really only want work groups to be project specific.
absolutely.
And sure, it could be the same group of people, but I don't want just like a running commission. I want it to be very
Yeah.
project specific.
Yeah,
I voted yes, just to further discuss it. I don't necessarily.
Leave that 2 cents out there.
Okay.
Just for your thought process and.
Noted.
noted.
I will
Yeah.
also put into the public record that there's an exception, trails, yips, and keep your hearts beautiful. So there are exceptions to what you want.
Yeah,
We can continue that conversation.
It's a true statement. Whether you
Uh,
discuss it or not, it's still
all right.
true.
Next item? or
Well, actually,
question on
I have
this?
a clarification
Okay.
question
So
for
I just
Bobby.
put a comment to that really quick. So yes, they're the same group of people, but they are applying for they're letting me know each project, they're requesting a project. They don't get to just keep going forth without having a project request happen.
Okay,
So, yeah.
good to know.
Mhm.
Okay,
Bobby, clarification perhaps?
Yes.
What is the difference between a work group that works with city staff to benefit the commons and the Parks and Commons Commission work? What would they do that we're not supposed to be doing? Or vice versa?
I'm not quite sure I understand your question. Can you say that again?
Um,
I got distracted.
Well, we're talking about establishing a work group that works with city staff to undertake projects. Isn't PCC essentially a work group that works with city staff?
We're an
No.
advisory
Okay, hang on, Ron, hang on.
We're gonna move forward. Dan, hang on to your questions. I will stay after and answer all your questions
All right.
during this. And,
I'm all for moving on.
yeah, and I've got I did pull it up on my phone. I don't want to read it now, but I've got it here so I can, the actual, policy that Gio mentioned earlier. So
Yeah, hold on to all your comments and questions.
Yes. Okay, now we're on the gather.
Public
Public
input
input.
for areas within our purview.
I think that and the next one are the same
Yeah.
question.
Yeah, I think
so.
you're right.
And it was prior somewhere, wasn't
It'll
it?
There's
come up
another,
again.
there's another one.
And we all agree with it.
Public input, yay or nay? Yes. Okay.
So yes, 7-0, yes, 7-0. Cool.
No. Okay, set goals. Wow, right on.
Okay, yes, 7-0.
Estuary Boardwalk Project.
I
I don't know what that
I
means
just didn't know- I
exactly.
don't even know what we had in it, because I was new to
That's
this.
okay.
Yeah,
That's
that was why
okay.
I put it out there. I thought that was- that going, so.
So what is it? Can you like give a verb?
Well, I just wanted to make sure that we had input into what was happening, or we were, as a
Input.
commission, I didn't realize
Okay.
what our function was.
It sounds like we don't have input.
That's what I think.
Yeah, that's how I.
Whether we vote, even if we vote yes, I don't know that we can take over any input.
What I mean,
I know what you mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I guess with what you've heard about the work group, do you want to keep this on here or do you want to strike that?
we already got a work group, then I would say we don't need.
Okay.
We can eliminate.
Oh, I was gonna vote yes.
I was-
Worth discussion.
Well, yeah,
Reconsider that? Because I personally want to have a role in the Boardwalk Estuary Project as Parks and Commons Commission. So, I think most of us were gonna vote yes on this one.
Mhm.
Yeah.
but
So will you rescind your rescission?
So it would read input on estuary boardwalk project.
Input on the,
Yeah.
there we go, input on the
Okay.
estuary there.
And I have a comment question. We are supposed, one of our roles will be working with the 25-year plan folks to help lay out the city.
Mhm.
So we definitely need input on the landmark property and the estuary project. If we're gonna be able to have a conversation with those folks.
Okay.
And I see this, I'm a little hung up, just a second, on what our definition is, because when I hear parks and commons, I go to the old English definition of it's the common spaces, it's all the shared
The
spaces.
Commons is this building
we're-
only. That's
we're-
what that means.
That's
Okay, well,
all gonna
The
flesh out.
building and everything on this, like the green area is part of the commons as well.
mhm.
Adam.
Yeah, I just want to clarify, Dan, the boardwalk and the landmark are outside of the Greater Commons master plan. So
They're outside of that.
whether we see them or not, they're not part of the master plan. It's just the Fourth Street to.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but we actually don't have direct input into the master plan anymore. I mean, as a commission,
No, not as.
it's only as individuals and citizens and members of the stakeholders group that we have, but the commission itself does not have a role.
At this moment, I think once they create the master plan, we will have input on implementing their ideas.
Let's hope so.
Okay. We're gonna move on. We might be able to get through this
Yeah.
whole thing today if we our butts. So here we go.
All right, create an
Sorry
educational,
about that, Alex.
Moving.
create an educational center for what's going on in the community space to help citizens struggling. So creating places within the Commons building.
Yeah, that's what, just
Is-
as a bridge for,
Yeah.
government.
Okay,
Different levels gets cut.
thumbs up or down?
Yeah.
We'll talk about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's talk
Talk
about
about it.
So is that a 7-0 yes?
Talk about it.
Yeah. talk about it. Yeah. Okay, community cleanup events.
That's a no by definition, because we're just the commons ground.
So I guess my question with that one more relates to like the 804. Are we gonna be responsible for like from the state park at the point to where the estuary is that part of Parks and Commons responsibility?
Or is it a trail?
What's that road? Is that
It is
part of trails? Like, who's gonna maintain that?
I think that's up to us. Isn't that what we're deciding in this
That's how I see
process?
this. We're deciding what our role is gonna be.
Well, we wouldn't decide who manages it. I mean, that's Bobby's job, but just so you know, Trails already does a yearly on it.
But
And there may be additional things now that if our state park's gonna be out of the loop completely or
State parks, no, that's their property.
that's their problem?
Right.
Okay.
But I mean, the guy that's building the new.
That was a fire drill. Test. Please excuse the alarm.
There is something as a for non-perishable food items, something like the, you know, the little library.
Yeah.
In the neighborhoods.
Right.
Put something out there as a place for to distribute,
Okay,
Okay,
things are gonna get tough. so.
any questions on that one?
Well,
No, I don't know.
it just seems to me like it's outside of the Parks and Commons purview.
But I meant like outside this property, like in this,
Connected to the-
Connected, they could come to the commons and.
so it
you know,
would be
outside.
separate from the existing food pantry at the Presbyterian Church.
Yeah,
It would
that's,
be a
that's what
common
staff and they have to go, and I'm talking about someplace to donate.
Self-serve
Self-serve
thing like the library. Yeah,
So just historically, the food pantry that's in the Presbyterian Church now used to be in the Commons. And I think it was COVID when
Yes, that I got. moved.
COVID closed this building effectively and they moved the food pantry to the Presbyterian Church. So just for context there.
It was more like a little structure, like. a
Yeah,
little library
I can
structure.
picture that. Yeah. Yeah,
This is a thought.
it's a great thought. Food pantry?
Yeah, sure.
It's.
We talked about.
Yeah.
this.
Sure.
Yeah.
We can figure something
I'm
out.
not
Is that-
sure that it's gonna fall to us.
George, were you a yes on that one? or-
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so 7-0 yes.
Great. Have a broad creative vision.
No, I want to narrow.
Okay, good.
Community outreach.
Wait,
Oh, okay.
Meg just assumes that everything.
no, we moved on.
On the executive. Any questions on have a broad creative vision? Okay, let's vote.
Sure.
Okay, 7-0 yes.
You guys just wasted 2 more minutes. No. Okay, community outreach.
And that was the other one that was the
Every
connector.
one of them.
7-0 on that one, everybody?
That matter, you can't set goals unless we identify them.
Okay.
Whereas being a liaison, I picture more as like communities coming to us during our meetings and saying,
Yeah.
hey, this and this. So that's like,
I agree with you. And we actually talked about this, the definitions of the words liaison. We need to be clear on that when we rewrite this, but the conceptual thing, we'll define it more clearly later, but
Fair enough.
that we interact with the community is the idea.
Just quickly, what does community outreach look like? I mean, is that?
We'll work
we're
on,
Walking around town with a sign, you know, ask me. Or, you know, I'm serious, what does that mean? Aren't we doing community outreach already?
So we can discuss
Okay.
that if we want to change it
Sure.
later, but
Sure.
yes. 7-0 yes. Okay.
okay, and identify goals as a repeat. We have that
Oh, we
one,
did.
yes. Track projects in a folder, including budget, timeline, et cetera.
I'm major in favor of that.
Okay,
Yeah, I know Neil was gonna investigate more how to
John?
best
Yes,
update
yes.
Okay, 7-0, yes.
this site.
Okay. Support, advise, recommend, provide feedback. These are action words to be included in what we do. Okay.
Yes, 7-0.
Collaborate with city on projects from early on in the process.
Yes,
You agree with
7-0.
that, George?
George, two votes on that, sorry, but yeah.
Oh, we got to.
8-0.
8-0.
10.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Getting there. We're getting
We're
there.
almost there.
No on the following. So here's another
Wait,
read.
you missed one.
There's as many ideas above.
Oh, he removed that on our version.
Oh, yeah,
it's
sorry
Still
about
on
that.
ours.
I asked him to take that out with
Yeah.
his permission and he did, but yeah, sorry.
I apologize. for that.
Okay, that's a no, 0-7.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, no on the following, setting fees, soliciting events, scheduling events, seeking grants, but providing input on all of these is fine.
So it's like combining two previous ideas.
Yeah. Okay, thumbs up or down.
Although the one thing is that it differentiates between setting, like doing those things, or just simply giving input if someone else does them, like the city does.
Yeah.
So,
So
Dan?
yes means no, we don't want to do that.
yeah, yes.
Correct.
no,
You
no,
agree with
no,
that statement? Yes.
Then, no, I.
Right.
Provide input. I don't have to do that.
Right upside down. Okay, so you do want to give input on
It
setting.
says Bud, you got Bud in there, so you're okay.
I'm sorry, I don't know how I'm supposed to vote.
Let me tell you. No, it's good.
What were you talking about? There you go.
Discussion.
It's more discussion. It's a yes, 7-0.
Wait a minute, I thought you said if there was a 7-0 vote that there was not going to be further discussion. You said only on the no vote.
That would be to get us to a consensus. So good question. So what it really means is that we haven't, this is not like going to be written. So for us to write anything that includes any of the yeses, we're going to have to, we'll be discussing a lot of that later. But the main things we're hitting on after this one, so on our April 1st meeting, then we'll be hitting on all the no's to see if we can get to yes. And if we can't, then we throw them out. Okay, is that good? That's fine. Okay,
Just the whole process seems like a waste if we're going to redo it all again. anyway.
but we're not?
We're not.
I don't
All
think
right, detailed planning for construction, designing, et cetera, does not belong with PCC. That belongs with city staff, hired consultants, or work groups as determined by the city manager. PCC exists to provide community input on community spaces, including parks, trails, and the commons as regards the impact and desirability of existing and proposed realities.
Questions?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
so like the input we gave on the proposed staircase over there, you think we should not be giving that input? Is that what you're saying?
I think, no, because it was presented to us. It wasn't like we didn't design it. It was presented, it was a design that was done by the architect. And then we gave our input on that. It happened to be because we have an expert on board, probably two experts, but one wasn't here, that we did give a lot of very detailed. I think a year ago, we would have given much more general input, but it was input. It wasn't sort of like the actual design or the actual, drawings and that kind of a thing like that. So this generalized it, makes it more general so that
Okay.
we're getting too into the weeds about those things. That's my intention of it.
Dan, clarification question. You're talking about we're not going to come up with and design something. What do you mean by that?
So we could come up with an idea, like I think we did. I think it was Michael, in fact, who, if I'm not mistaken, or he was a very important cheerleader about the northeast entrance and redoing it. So that we came up with, but in terms of the design itself, that was Bobby put it out to an architect. We got the architectural plans and then we discussed it here, gave our feedback or input, and then we're done.
Okay, I see some gaps in what we're doing that I'd like to somehow close up. And one would be that if, George was absent for a couple of meetings and, okay, one, I'm not coming.
It's not exactly.
And
One simple meeting.
And I sort of happen to be here because I just joined. But my perception is that with the stairway design, that and my understanding is kind of, I think Neil is the one who approached the architect and said, we need a stairway design.
Mhm.
Neil has no building experience, and he just said, give me a stairway. And then, we got architectural plans drawn up. And then if I hadn't been here, everybody would looked at those plans and gone, looks like the stair to me, and we'd have voted, yes, we want those stairs, and I think we would have gotten something that people would not have liked, that would not have worked well for them. So I'd like to see some way for us to have design input, because that's a big part of how things work. George.
I would like to back up Dan on some of this. So we identify projects that are needed. We do that over and over again. In some cases, we've voted on very specific details and nobody complained about it. For example, the color of the fencing in the parks that Ron just installed.
Mhm.
Every single person on the commission voted for a color. Now, if I came in here with a project to do something in the comments and said, let's vote on the details, most people would be like, whoa, that's not our job. But in fact, we did it. And so there's an inconsistency of what's going on in this commission that Dan is pointing out. And I think that if our role is to identify projects that are needed, not that that we're the only one that can identify projects, but if one of our goals is to identify projects, then what's our role after that? This is the part I want to have very detailed conversation about, not today, but in this ordinance thing,
Mhm.
because
And we will.
it's a frustration for Dan to make his comments and then they just disappeared into the ether. He has no idea what
Yeah.
the group didn't vote that I know of, and there's no way for that to bounce back for us to understand what was finally decided.
Bobby, would you like to respond?
Just make a comment really quick. I mean, I've heard the description of these ideas being just lost into the ether. I just want that to be clear that that's not happening at all. Like, the recommendations have been given to our city staff, and our city staff are working on these things. You guys meet once a month, and we have a lot of different projects that are in the hopper. And just because you don't hear back on it immediately or within even a couple of weeks or the next meeting doesn't mean it's a disappeared project. But when there is more to be reported on, there will be more that's reported on. I just wanted to be clear, like, that there are the recommendations aren't being not heard by us and our staff. So I just want to put that out
Okay,
there.
but
Yeah.
let's just continue that.
Yeah.
So what is
Mhm.
your role or Rose's role or any city staff's role then to be reporting back to us on our recommendations, whether they were accepted, whether they weren't, like, what is the process?
Sure, so you have a meeting coming up, right? Yeah, so we will have our next step of the way reported to you from Neil. So what happened with that is that they were given, we received them. Neil and I set a meeting to talk about them, and we went, okay, so this would be a good question for the architect, this would be a good question for the contractor that we've been working with. Let's take these to them and further discuss with this person, this person, this person, and see what their feedback is. And then we will further discuss, or we'll share where we're gonna go next with the Parks and Commons Commission. So that's kind of how it rolls. So it doesn't, just because it didn't happen like immediately, doesn't mean it's not happening. So, yeah.
Okay. I do want to clarify that nobody's picking on the city manager.
City staff, and we're protective of city staff.
Okay, well, nobody's got to ask Ryan about any of that. I myself clearly say new guy all the time, and I don't know the system, so I don't know who to even go ask for things. So, there's not any sort of, I don't know, negative feelings, for lack of a better word, about that part of the scenario. I know we're a small village. We're mostly volunteers. We've changed so much in the last couple of years with new job descriptions and new processes. I know we've got to dry run and change all the time. So don't fret about that part. The other thing I want to clarify is that, yes, we've got a hole in this thing. And I'm just gonna jump back on those stairs for one more minute. You know, Neil does great work. No complaints about Neil. Don't misunderstand me. But Neil has, to my knowledge, no building experience. So when it comes across his desk to request plans for the stairs, he gives no input. Okay? When the plans come back to him, minus the input from here that we were lucky to have, Neil's in the same boat. He says, okay, you gave me stairs. I approve the stairs. So I think that we need to use our resources and our strengths, and we need to be able to review these projects and because, you know, the suggestions I made could certainly just be called general population comments, you know, because,
Okay, let's let Bobby
Yeah.
respond to that.
okay.
So the stairs have been a conversation that have been in place way before I started. And from my understanding, by the time we got them, there was significant input that was taking place from the Parks and Commons Commission, including a drawing that was our initial point.
Okay.
That was with significant input. So I don't feel like that really got skipped.
Okay, new guy.
Yeah, no, I just think that, you know, we're bringing it back in, and I do want everybody to also be just reminded that we did have this period of time where we were missing this very key person, now Rosa, in this relationship. So it would, you know, with all of the amount of projects that we did on our plane on, some of that communication ideas definitely got stepped over or skipped over, but I think we're bringing it back, and I think that that's just a really important thing to remember, is that communication gap has been filled. And yes, absolutely, it was present there for a while, but I think that
Okay.
we're working on filling it. So,
Okay, so, go ahead.
okay, our city staff does, get going here.
Yeah, I was gonna say, let's just, more discussion on this, but who's up?
Yeah.
Okay, so are we ready to vote or any more questions on this one? Okay, let's vote on this question.
More discussion.
That
Yeah.
it does not?
We're just
It's just what it says.
approving more discussion on it, I think.
But if you don't
Feel like I'm
don't
voting.
like it, vote no on it.
Just as written.
If you can't live with it, as written.
As written, I'll vote no.
Gio's a little taking time, but just take her time.
Yeah, no rush.
Just takes us out.
I'm just
all
planning to
time.
discuss it more, Gio. I don't necessarily agree with it as written.
And we definitely will because Dan's no, so that'll definitely, in
Yeah,
fact, we'll
we're
be
gonna
discussing
discuss
it
it.
like next meeting. So I think it was a 6-1.
Yeah.
We'll definitely discuss it.
Okay, good job.
Okay, so thank you very much, everyone.
Yeah, I'd like
Kimmy?
to thank you, Bobby, Craig, and Rosa.
And Michael too.
Very good.
Well done.